Hey everybody, I am Joe Tobias, in Washington State elopement photographer, and I'm just gonna claim it off the bat. Things look a little different, don't they? It's because I'm shooting on my iPhone. Why am I shooting on my iPhone? Because today I want to talk about all of the Canon cameras that I own, which is quite obviously way too many. I've been a Canon shooter for as long as I've had digital cameras, and yeah, as you can see, I've got probably too many of them, and that's not even including the ones that I've sold over the years. So like, it's kind of a lot. And I don't know, people ask me every once in a while, like, why do you shoot Canon? And it's really came down to like a really simple answer, and it was that when I first was buying my very first digital camera, I had friends who also were shooting Canons, and so I bought a Canon because I wanted to borrow their lenses. And a decade later, it's still what I'm using. But that said, I don't know if I'm going to keep doing, I don't know, like I feel like we're on the precipice of change as far as cameras go, at least in my life. And so I thought I'd make this video showing everything that I had, and maybe as a moment to document, like, this is what I got now. We'll see what happens in the future. But I don't know, like a decade later, like I still really like them just because I'm so used to these that I can grab any one of these cameras and instantly my hand just feels at home. Like this just feels normal to me. And there's something kind of cool about a camera that was made anywhere between like 1990 through till yesterday, that they all just fit in my hand. And that feels really cool and really useful in what I do. With that, I thought I'd just kind of walk through all of the different cameras that I own and why I own them and why I either will keep them or sell them, or just what I think about them. So as of right now, I have 7 of them. And I honestly, when I wrote the script for this video, I thought I had 6, and I found a 7th when I was cleaning out my closet. So yeah, these things just kind of have a habit of sticking around, I guess. So, whoops. So as I walk through all of these cameras, I'm going to start off here with this first one here. This is the Canon Rebel G. I got this for $5 at a thrift shop.
This right here, you guys, is the $5 plastic.
Cannot believe my mom found this for $5.
Picked it up from a thrift store for $5.
Okay, so there's actually 7, and I can't even lie to you because the sticker's still on the back of it, because this camera is broken, and therefore I've never taken a photo with it. It works, the internals work, but the shutter button is actually broken. So like, I don't know, I should have felt it when I was at the shop. Like I thought I was getting a great deal, but like I can feel that there's not a click in there as compared to something else. That half click, like half click, half click. You just like, you instantly feel the difference. As soon as like I realized that was broken, I was like, oh yeah, duh, that's broken. I should have known it. But anyway, this is trash, or if anybody wants it, DM me and I'll ship it, you know, figure it out or something, like whatever. Moving on down the line, this is the Canon Rebel S with a quartz date. So slightly big step up here. Interesting enough, it is ever so slightly bigger of a camera. I don't know if you can, we'll see from there. Definitely a lot bigger that way. I don't know which one is older. And I don't really care to find out because this camera I also don't really intend on keeping. I got this one also for
$5.
$5.
Put on eBay. And I bought this one because I thought that I was going to get rid of my EOS 3, which I'll talk more about that in a sec. But I was trying to find something new, find something just like a cheap walk-around camera that I would be able to shoot double exposures with, and I could use all of my modern lenses on, kind of more, and would have a self-timer. So like knowing I'd be able to use it in my project with Lena. But with it, the timer didn't work with all of the settings in the same way, and I could, like, even though the manual says it should have double exposures and the videos I've watched on it says that it should have double exposures, I could never really figure out how to do that with this particular camera. So it doesn't work like it's supposed to. Or like, I don't know, it's not that it's necessarily broken, it just doesn't have like the 2 features that I really wanted out of it. The only thing that is broken in this particular one is that the quartz date LCD is broken in the back here, so I have no idea what the date is set to, even when it does have batteries in it and is ready to go. So it's either you turn it on and it's just like this weird thing of like, I don't know, it's fun to have a date on there, but it's not the right date. So it's kind of just feels stupid. So I don't know, I'm probably gonna get rid of this one too. Working my way up to, now we're into the big boys here. This is the Canon EOS 3. If you have been around this channel for a while, you might have watched my full review of this camera and what I love about it and why I probably won't keep it forever. And that is the honest truth about this camera. The biggest reason that I don't want to keep this particular camera, and I've said it, Ben Heisch has said it, it's that this camera doesn't play nicely with the Canon 50mm 1.2. And the whole reason I shoot all these old legacy Canon film cameras is because I want to use my modern lenses with these older cameras. And if it can't do that, that kind of defeats the entire purpose, right? So that's why this one's gonna go away. Other than that, it's a great camera and it feels awesome. It is built like a tank. It is so sturdy. I've taken this to Bangladesh. I've taken this to Europe, to New York, and I really love the photos I've gotten on it, except for with that one particular lens. But because that's my favorite lens, I don't know, it's time for this thing to move on. Moving on to camera number 4. This is the Canon ELAN 7E with eye control. This camera I got into thanks to Forrest Mankins, and he's a great dude, good follow on Twitter, amazing photographer, buys presets, all that kind of stuff. But we were talking about, basically I was complaining about the EOS 3 on Twitter and saying what I didn't like about it and that it didn't work with my 50. And he mentioned that he really liked this particular model and that he'd never had problems with his 50 with it. And that it really had all of the same features, but was a third of the price and half the weight. I was like, yes, I'm on board with this. Because in the end, like, I want a film camera that's easy to use, that's light, that I can go hiking with, that I can photograph Lena with and stuff. And again, it needs to be able to do double exposures, fire my flashes, and have a timer. And so this thing has all of those options in it in a smaller body that weighs less and was way cheaper. It also has that same eye autofocus thing that I don't really use. It might work better than this one does, or about the same. I don't know. I just am so used to moving the focus points around with the buttons that eye focus wasn't a huge deal breaker for me. I'm super curious with the new, the brand new Canon that they just rolled out. What is it? The EOS R3 or 3R or R3? R3? R2? R3? With that, that's going to be a modern version that also has that same eye focus in it. And I don't know, with modern technology, I kind of feel like they might do a better job of it than they did back in this. But I love this film camera. This is the one, whereas if these ones are all going away, this thing is definitely going to stick around because this does everything I want it to and is really just a solid camera for me. All right, so we are going to slide into the digital world here, and this is the oldest one of the 3 Canon digital cameras that I still own. This is the Canon 5D Mark III. And this was the first full-frame camera that I bought, or at least the full-frame digital camera I bought. And it opened a million doors for me that I still am eternally grateful for. And honestly, this is still my favorite stills camera. On my wedding day, I have like a dual camera strap on my back, and this is the camera that sits on my right side here with my 50mm 1.2 on it. And that is my favorite lens, my favorite combination, because there's something about the greens and the skin tones that this particular camera produces that I still feel like are just the best colors of any camera I've ever used. And that's why I keep using it. This thing's old. This is, I mean, I broke one eye cap thingy here. I bought a new one. I broke that, so I super glued it on. I broke off all the rubber on it, and it broke it again. And so now I just have this like piece of plastic super glued on there. I broke off the thumb plate here. It's scratched to all hell. I think this camera has probably like 1 million shutters on it, and it's still going. And I just can't get over like how well this like almost 10-year-old camera is now and how well it still is doing what it's supposed to do. And so yeah, it still is my favorite. Obviously, I have backups because it's an ancient camera and it might break at any moment. But that's why this is my favorite. It's my favorite, so I'm going to keep using it. the next digital camera that I have here is the 7D Mark II. I bought this because at the time, so I had this, the full frame that would sit on the right side, and then I used APS-C sensor, so the smaller sensor, so I used the smaller sensor camera here on the other side. And the reason I did that was because then I would have my 50mm and a 24mm. And so what that basically meant is that with two cameras with different size sensors and two lenses, I had 4 looks. So that the 5D with a full frame would act like a 24 or a 50. And then the APS-C sensor, the smaller sensor here, would act like a 35mm or an 85mm. And so over the course of the day, I just would be switching lenses back and forth between those two bodies all the time to get those between those 4 different looks that needed in a particular moment. And it worked really well for me. It definitely has like not quite as shallow of a depth of field because of that. And there's plenty of thoughts and stuff about like shooting crazy high ISOs with the smaller sensor, but this camera did really well for me. And I loved it because it was the first camera that Canon put the dual pixel in. So that means if you're shooting video, it has autofocus in it. Or if you're shooting in the live view actually like works pretty good as compared to trying to focus in live view in like a Mark III is so clunky and it takes forever. So this was the first one that became super useful, which holding the camera really high or shooting really low to have that ability to focus without needing to like get down on the ground and look through your viewfinder was super, super helpful. So yeah, honestly, I still shoot a lot of my YouTube videos with this thing here just because of that autofocus thing, and it shoots 1080p and looks good. So you have probably watched footage from this camera pretty recently if you watch any of my videos. So the last camera I'm going to talk about today would be the newest of them that I own, and that's the 5D Mark IV. I bought this intending that it would replace the Mark III. I thought I would sell the Mark III, but as soon as I got that, one wedding, I put the 2 full frame cameras on my straps and was just like, oh, this is way better. Never mind. And I kind of stopped doing that like smaller sensor thing basically that day. And not to say that I look back and I regret using it. It's just like you learn, you grow, you try, and your style evolves and stuff. And so that I stopped doing that. And so now like the 7D is my backup camera that's in my bag. And this is my main workhorse. Anytime I'm working with just one camera, this is what I'll use because it can do both photos and video. I still think the colors in the Mark III are better than the colors in the Mark IV. There's something about the skin tones that just feel like just a little bit muddy and soft and stuff with this, even editing raw files, that I just have never liked them as much coming out of the Mark IV as I did out of the Mark III. And so that's why this still is my like primary right-hand camera and this is my left-hand camera. But if I'm only using one camera, this is the main one. And like, please, if you're in here and you're thinking, oh, well then if he shows up with only one camera, is he taking crappy photos? No, don't worry. This is one of those things that like you only notice, like only I notice, because I sit here and I stare at these pixels and these cameras right next to each other and pull my hair out, and nobody else will ever see. So don't worry about it. But this is part of the neuroses that also makes me good at what I do, because I fret about this kind of stuff. And I think any other photographer you know is probably fretting about similar things. And nobody else really cares, but it's that attention to detail, or that just like that much of giving a shit that makes us good at what we do. So I guess I just wanted to make this video because it kind of feels like it's the end of an era for me. It feels like it's the end of my love affair with the Canon SLR system. And that doesn't mean I'm going to sell them all tomorrow. But this is the beginning of a changeover for me of what does the future look like? Because as much as part of me does want to just buy a bunch of Mark IIIs and just kind of shoot those off into the sunset, I don't know how sustainable that is. And if you watch my videos on buying things, the third question is always, how do I make sure I only buy this once? And I don't know if that answers that. It might, but it might not. And so maybe it is buying an R5 or an R6. But if I do do I keep the legacy lenses so I can keep shooting this awesome thing? Or do I start getting the new lenses and then I have to have two different systems? Or I don't know, maybe I should be shooting Fuji, which like we used to have an X-T1, which I didn't love the photos of, but the use was really cool. And everybody who shoots Fuji now loves them to no end. And so I think that maybe an X-T4 or an X Pro 3 or something like that would be really cool. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I drool over GFXs or like the Hasselblad systems and stuff all the time because those look really awesome. Maybe I should sell it all and buy Leicas, or I should just only shoot my Leica M6 and my Mamiya 6 and only just shoot film or something like that. Or maybe it's something else. I don't know. And so I feel like as I'm about to kind of begin this new question of like, what is the next step? What is the next tool? What is the thing that's going to help me continue to make art that resonates with me and resonates with my couples? There's a bit of a question in the learning period that's about to happen. And so I just kind of wanted to document this milestone of what I have before I start diving into the new thing. So let me know in the comments, what should I buy? And also why, plenty of you are think I'm wrong in my opinions, which, okay, tell me why I'm wrong. But I don't know, why do you like what you use? Why do you use what you do? And how does it make you better? And as I kind of dive into that new question of like, what's the next gear that's going to help me make the best art I can? I don't know. I'm sure I'll make plenty of videos and drag you along for the ride. But in the meantime, thanks for watching, and I'll see you around.